Alright, for those of you in a hurry, the key takeaway from this video is in order to avoid getting poor or falling into the poverty trap, make sure that you keep track of your yearly income and consistently outdo yourself on a yearly basis. In order to know what a poverty trap is and what scenarios can cause it or cause you to fall into it, and how do you counter it, stick around. Poverty trap is an idea that's well known among economists and is something that I read in a book called Poor Economics by Abhijit V. Banerjee and Esther Duflo. Right, so what is a poverty trap? In order to understand this, let's take an example. Let's say I make 100 rupees this year, 100 rupees the year after, and the year after that again 100. This means that I am steadily making the same income. My standard of living has not changed. Now, if I were to make 110, that gives 110 the year after. That gives me enough money to invest and maybe make 120 the year after that. And now 120 helps me invest more and make a lot more than that. But in the same lines, you could also be making less than the previous year. So say I made 100 rupees last year, but I made only 90 rupees this year. And this gives me lesser money to invest, and 90 could go less than that, and I could be making potentially 80 or 70. And this depreciating income is what one could call a poverty trap. The key point to remember here is that your current income influences what your future income would be. Right. There are many scenarios under which one can fall into the poverty trap. You have scenarios that are related to nutrition, education, health, inflation, the size of the family, and many more. But I'm going to stick to these 5 and explain what they are. For any person to perform well and make sufficient income, one needs to get the right amount of nutrition, both macro as well as micro. Now, you could be stuck in a poverty trap if you don't get the right type of nutrition. A classic example is anyone who's suffering from anemia. Now, this is caused due to iron deficiency, and usual symptoms are people are lethargic, don't have enough energy to do things, and this could potentially lead them to not perform well and thereby get lesser income and fall into the poverty trap. We've all heard of cases where the breadwinner in a family has passed away or has had a terminal illness, and the rest of the family is now left to fend for themselves. Now, they try to cut on spending, or they sell their assets, or they borrow at very high interest rates in order to survive. This then leads or puts them in a poverty trap. There are also cases where people end up living in poor living conditions where water and air quality is really bad. So people end up getting diseases, which in turn reduces their potential to probably educate their kids or work for more days, and this also leads to poverty trap. This one's obvious. If you don't provide primary education to our kids, then we're going to put them in a poverty trap. But there are 2 scenarios that I want to call out from the book. One being everyone in the family backing a winner among the kids. What I mean by that is generally a kid who studies well gets all the backup. Everyone gives good feedback to the kid, and all the energy, money, and everything is put on that kid. Meanwhile, the rest are left behind, which causes them to spiral into a poverty trap. And this is something that really hits hard on me, and I would love people to remedy this. Alright, the second scenario is for kids who struggle to even do the basics, to be stuck in a school where everything is for competition's sake. Meaning, you have to clear exams, you have to give competitive exams and things like that. Meanwhile, you're a kid who's stuck in a school where you're learning to read. Meanwhile, everyone else is reading to learn, and individual attention given to such kids could potentially take them off of the poverty trap. You could be making the same 100 rupees today, the next year, and the year after that, and still fall into the poverty trap. I know this is counter to the example that I mentioned before, but in real world, you have a concept called inflation, which is nothing but the purchasing power of money. The purchasing power of 100 rupees today will not be the same the next year. It will be way less than that. It would be somewhere around 93 if the inflation is at around 7%. Now, for you to counter this, you always have to make sure that your income is above the inflation percentage. Here's where if you have less number of people earning in the family and there's a larger family to support, which means the income gets divided and it's lesser and lesser being allocated to each person, and thereby potentially putting them in a risk to fall into the poverty trap. So there are a few ways to counter these scenarios I mentioned. Make sure you get your finances in order. Make sure you make income that is beating inflation. Get the right term insurance, health insurance, and whatever possible insurances to secure yourself. And make sure you eat right, get the right amount of nutrition so that you can be productive. With that, we come to the end of the video. There are several other ways in which one could get stuck in a poverty trap. For this, please do check out the book Poor Economics. And thanks for watching this video. Please do like, share, and subscribe if you found this helpful.